How would you like to heal money blocks? Scarlett Stanhope will tell us how to do it. And what's so special about Scarlett is she's also known as the business, and she teaches coaches to conquer their finances and own their worth so they can be fully supported by work they love. So Scarlett, tell us more about what are money blocks and how can someone heal them?
Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health, thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, this is such a great and important question because we live in this modern day and age where so much of our world revolves around money, and money plays a huge impact on our lives. In fact, several years ago, I remember I was living a life that was truly driven by money and feeling like I had to work certain jobs and work certain hours and do certain things and behave a certain way in order to make money and survive. And instead of getting to live a life that I wanted to live, I was allowing money to control and dictate my life. And I think so many people live lives this way without even, realizing it because it's just become such an ingrained part of our society. So when we can heal our relationship with money and the scarce-based, fear-based beliefs we have around money, we can kind of break free from this hold that money can have on us so that we can create a life we really love without money being the thing holding us back.
Thank you. Tell us more about how can someone do that? How can someone heal money blocks? Like, what is the blueprint for someone who has money blocks to make them disappear?
Yeah, I think there's multiple components to this, and it's a combination of tangible and intangible work. The work that I do with my clients always starts with looking at your relationship with money, which is your thoughts around money, how you feel about money, and how you use your money. That's more of the intangible side of money. And it's recognizing that we have these subconscious beliefs and programs that we were taught about money from a young age. As a child, we were taught like money doesn't grow on trees. There's not enough to go around. You need to work really hard. If you enjoy what you're doing, then there's something wrong. You need to hate what you're doing in order to make money. You can't make money and do what you love at the same time. That's a starving artist syndrome, right? So we have these patterns and beliefs around money. And the very first step is to bring awareness to your current relationship with money, to bring awareness to what you currently believe about money, how you currently feel around money, and how that is impacting how you show up in your life, how you make decisions, how you take action, and how that impacts your money on a day-to-day basis. So that is the first step, is bringing awareness to your internal world, your internal relationship with money. The second step is getting really tangible with your money, learning to see your money clearly on paper and knowing exactly what's happening. This is that external awareness around money. A lot of people have fear and resistance to budgeting, but this is where I talk about blueprinting with your money instead of budgeting. Budgeting tells you what you can't do with the money that you have, but blueprinting tells you what you can do with the money that you have. It's empowering. It's powerful to make conscious decisions about what is most important to you with the money that you have. So once you bring internal awareness to your money and external tangible awareness to your money, those are the first foundations to really start to get in control of your money, and then as a result, get in control of your life.
Thank you. What is the next step to heal money blocks?
Yeah, after you do that, then the next step is to really get clear on the life that you want to live. What is your priority? What is the kind of life that you really want to create? If money was not an issue, what would you choose? What is most important to you? And then to start to align your money with that vision, to start to align how you spend money, how you feel about money with the kind of life that you want to live, because that is how you create that life, is by moving your money strategically in the direction of the kind of life you want to live. So really it becomes very simple. If you're not in scarcity with your money, if you've shifted your mindset around money, if you can see your money clearly and then you use your money strategically in alignment with where you want to go in the direction of the life you want to live, then you create that life, and then you stop feeling stressed about money and you start feeling in control of your money and in control of your life.
Thank you. Tell us 3 case studies of entrepreneurs you've coached who have healed money blocks, and tell us where their money blocks were. How did they manifest, and how did you help them find a better path?
Yeah, so for one example, I was working with a client who actually lived in London, and she had been in a corporate job for many years, and she also had been living at the same apartment in London for 10 years, and she was starting her very own life coaching business. And when we had our first initial consultation, she said to me on that call, I would love to transition out of my full-time 9-to-5 within 6 months. And I remember saying to her, we can make anything happen with your money strategically. So let's see if we can pull this off. And so throughout our time together, we uncovered a lot of self-worth blocks, because often our relationship with money ties into our self-worth. If we don't trust ourselves with our money, if we're not confident with our finances, if we're living in scarcity and lack, normally that's an indicator that we feel like we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not fully confident in ourselves and our worth and our value. And so helping her really heal the internal blocks of not enoughness, of lacking self-confidence and self-trust, was really the first step for her, so that she could feel really confident in who she was and the work that she was offering in her coaching business. Then from there, we got her money on paper very tangibly. And she was somebody who was already managing her money, but not in this way where she could really see the big picture clearly with her money. And once she could see her money clearly, then she could start to make decisions and choices about this transition that she was going to make for her life. She could actually map out when was the right time to leave her 9-to-5 job and how she could pull it off. She could do it instead of just a blind leap of faith and hoping that it would work out. She could plan the risk tolerance that was right for her, the decision point that was right for her. And so she did leave that 9-to-5 job within that 6-month period of time, and also moved out of her apartment that she had been living in for 10 years and started traveling the world and going full time in her coaching business. So that was one example of how this work has helped a client. Another client that I've worked with, he was a personal trainer in South Africa, and he had been personal training for many years, like 20 years. And at the same time, he always felt like he was living paycheck to paycheck, just barely getting by, just making enough. And what he really wanted to do was start to grow his online personal training business and his online coaching, so that he could get out of this like never ending grind treadmill energy, and so that he could really build something that was sustainable. But at the time, he couldn't see how it was possible. He needed money to survive. He couldn't, work less hours in his personal training so that he could grow his other business. And through working together, we uncovered these limiting beliefs of what he thought was possible or impossible. And we started to shift the narrative and the story around them and show him what really was possible, what he was capable of doing. That way he could start to make conscious decisions about what was most important to him. And for the first time in 20 years, he started to treat his business like a business. That's what so many entrepreneurs I see are missing, is they just treat their business like a hobby. They don't really take it seriously. And so he started to manage his business finances and really step into what I call legit business owner energy, which increased his ability to land sales and land clients. And so he was able to really carve out time in his schedule to start to prioritize his business and really grow his business in a bigger way. And he never would have done that before. He felt like money was confusing and hard and complicated, but since working together, his relationship with money was totally transformed. He felt like he was in control of his money and in control of his life, and he could see a very clear plan for the life that he was building and creating, a clear plan to make his vision real instead of just something far off in the distance that he hoped someday he could achieve. So that's another client that I've experienced. And then a third client is a professional artist. And when we were working together, she had already been a professional artist making large sculptural commissions, but she was struggling with the volatile income that comes from being an artist or being an entrepreneur, with ups and downs and not knowing how to feel financially stable and safe in that. And also at the same time, wanting to grow her business, wanting to bring in more. And through doing this work together, we uncovered a lot of her subconscious fears of what would happen if she really did grow, how her husband would perceive her, how she would feel about it, these beliefs of her not being able to handle it, not having the capacity to do it. And what we uncovered together was, one, that she actually did have plenty of money to be able to handle the highs and lows. She could create a plan to make sure she was always financially supported, even if she was in between commissions. And working through her mindset together, we were able to increase her mindset around how much her pieces were worth. And so people started reaching out to her for higher and higher commissions. And we were working on her mindset around being able to sell a $100,000 piece. And then 2 weeks later, someone reached out to her offering her a $200,000 commission. And she's now currently on her way to offering $1 million commission pieces. So those are just some examples. But other big themes that I see are people are able to crush credit card debt. People are able to build emergency savings. People are able to leave their 9-to-5 jobs and really start crafting and building a life that they love today and continuing to work towards the next level vision of that life.
Thank you. Tell us more about crushing credit card debt or other debt. How would someone start to heal their money blocks that would lead towards deleting that credit card debt?
Yeah, and this is such an important question because so many of us have credit card debt nowadays, and it really starts with bringing awareness to your money. You have to first see clearly what is happening with your money in order to start to make a dent in your credit card debt, because you have to know how much money you actually have available to put towards your credit cards. And I think the problem that I see most people dealing with is they're like yo-yo goaling is what I call it. And so you think you have a lot of money, your paycheck comes in, you're having a good week, and you put a large amount of money towards your credit card debt. You feel really good about it. And then 2 weeks later, oh my gosh, you're super stressed out. You have no money, and you start charging stuff onto your credit cards to make up for it. And so you're not really making any progress towards your goals. And that's because you're not zoomed out to see the bigger picture of how much money you actually have when you look at the whole month. So you need to first get that clear picture so you know how much money you have available to put towards your credit cards. Then from there, you need to be clear on where you're focusing that money. Once you know how much money you have, often where people get tripped up is they split that money across multiple goals or multiple credit cards. It's like, okay, I'm going to put some in savings. I'm going to pay a little off on this card, a little off on that card. But when you split the amount of money that you have available, it doesn't go as far. And so it's so much more valuable and potent to take all of the resources that you have, condense them together, and move towards one goal. So knowing which is the credit card that you're going to crush first and putting as much effort as you can towards that one goal until you eliminate that credit card, and then that can snowball into the next one, and you're able to crush the next one faster with more momentum.
Thank you. What about people who want to leverage their credit card debt in order to be able to purchase property or to do other bigger goals where they can actually leverage the debt?
Yeah, I think leveraging credit is really important because a lot of businesses do this. And in order to be successful in your business or to build, successful investments, you have to have some sort of money available in order to take those leaps, make those risks so that you're investing in the future. I think it's important to do this strategically and intentionally with a plan. It's one thing to kind of take a leap of faith, close your eyes, and just put it on a credit card and hope that it works out, versus really building a strategy and a plan and a timeline to pay it off, how you're going to pay it off, what's the plan to make that happen, even if you don't get returns on those investments right away. And also doing the math and seeing very clearly the interest rate versus the return on the investment. If you think you're going to get a return on this investment, but it's less than the interest that you're going to be charged on that credit card, then it's not worth it to do it in this way. If anything, you'd be better off either getting a different form of credit, whether that's a low interest loan or getting like saving up cash. Like there's some other ways that you can really leverage your credit and leverage debt in order to be successful. So I think doing it strategically, running the numbers, knowing the math, and making this a conscious strategic decision, as opposed to just like hoping that it works and then digging yourself into a hole of debt that you don't know how to get out of.
Thank you. How can someone heal their money blocks that is manifesting through, let's say, them making millions of dollars in sales and then keeping nothing and remaining with a big debt?
Yeah. And I think this is something huge I see all the time, is that you can feel stressed about money and think that the solution is to get more money, and that once you get more money, everything's going to be better, you're going to feel better, and the money stress is going to go away. But often that's not the case. Any money stress that you feel currently, it just continues to grow as you get more money, because you haven't changed your relationship with money. You haven't changed the way you think about money, the way you feel about money, and the way you use your money. And because of that, when you pour more money into that situation, you're just taking that same situation and you're growing it, you're magnifying it. If anything, people say there is more stress that comes with it. And so how you change this is coming back to the same foundational steps of shifting your mindset around money, really bringing awareness to what is creating this pattern and this habit that is causing you to spend money. What are you spending on? What are you prioritizing, and why? Are you just accumulating tons of consumer debt for no reason because you're trying to fill this uncomfortable void that shopping seems to fulfill for a second? Or are you investing in something that's really important and is a priority and is going to grow in the future, and therefore it is worthwhile? Just recognizing what decisions you're making and what is fueling those decisions, bringing awareness to that, and then bringing awareness to what is happening with your money. When you can see your money clearly, you can make different decisions and different choices about what is important to you. Maybe it's important for you to be able to fund your lifestyle, to be able to live, to be able to put food on your table, and to no longer carry the weight and the stress of the credit card debt. And if that is a priority, how can you build that into the plan strategically with your money to make sure that happens? But it really comes back to awareness with your money and understanding why are you making the choices that you're making. And instead of your money being an unconscious process that continues to happen no matter how much money you make, how can we turn this into a conscious process where you are making choices and decisions in alignment with you and the kind of life you really want to live, starting right now with the money you already have?
Thank you. How can someone leverage positive emotions in order to heal money blocks? What I mean is, is there any way someone can add more love, more joy, more positive emotions to the money that they spend, or they invest, or they receive, so that they can heal money blocks, and that way they can just attract more money?
Yeah, I think the energy and the mindset that you bring to your money is really important. And I also believe that it's possible to feel abundant and safe and free and grateful and satisfied with the money that you already have in the current financial situation that you already have. In fact, I remember distinctly working with a client who said to me on a call, she said, I have $10 in my account right now. And yet in this moment, I feel more abundant than I ever have in my life, because I know I'm in control of my money. I know more is coming in, and I know I have a plan for it when more does come in. And so that feeling of being the one in control of your money, recognizing that your money is a choice. Every single time you spend money, you're choosing what is important to you. And with that choice, you are manifesting and creating the life that you are living. You are in control of this life. And recognizing that and bringing that level of intention into your money is really empowering, no matter how much money you have. And so when you live your life in this way, where you can feel safe and solid right now with the money that you have, when you can feel grateful, when you can choose to intentionally pour your money into what are truly your priorities and what are your desires, then that magnifies, then that amplifies. And really, that's when your money becomes a powerful tool for manifestation to create the life that you want to live. But it all starts with your mindset around money first.
How can someone move from scarcity to abundance and to heal money blocks so that, let's say, even if they're making millions, there are a lot of people who are making millions and keeping millions, but they're still like very stingy, you know? How can someone like heal money blocks when and go from feeling scarcity everywhere to feeling abundant?
Yeah, I think there's multiple components here. And again, it comes back to your internal relationship with money and your tangible relationship with money. I think the number one reason why people feel scared or scarce or stressed around money, no matter how much they have, is because you can't see your money clearly. If you do not know what's happening with your money, doesn't matter how much you make, the thing that you are afraid of is the unknown. The fear that, oh, I think I have a lot, but what if it runs out? Or what if it's getting spent? Or the fact that you don't know what's happening. That is the thing that's creating the fear. So once you put your money down on paper and you can see clearly exactly how much you have, exactly where it's going, that's when you are in control. That's when you can start to make decisions about your life and make choices for, oh, this is a priority, this isn't a priority, and you can do things differently. If you can't see it, you're not in control of it. You can't do anything to really change the situation. And even if you do things to change the situation, you can't see those changes. And again, it's the unknown that causes the stress. So that's the first piece, is having a tool to see your money very clearly, no matter how much money you're making. Always eliminates around 70% of the money stress, because now you know what's happening and you can do something about it. So that's the first piece. The other piece is what really creates our relationship with money. And that starts with the 3 scarcity seeds, right? So these foundational scarce-based beliefs that we just have around money as a society, which is worthiness, not enoughness, and starving artist syndrome, and how these core beliefs were taught to us in our childhood through our money stories, right? Moments in time where we learned these beliefs, and how these moments in time created different parts of ourselves that act in certain ways in order to play out the story, in order to play out the narrative. For example, if you learned money doesn't grow on trees, I really need to work hard in order to be successful. People who have a lot of money have life just handed to them, and that makes them bad people, right? There's a moment in time, a memory, where you learned these beliefs. And from that, now there's these subconscious parts of you that act and show up in certain ways to fulfill and complete the narrative, where it's like, oh, I can't actually make a lot of money, because if I do, then I'm bad. I'm like one of those people that has had life handed to them. I really need to struggle and suffer in order to be worthy and deserving. And so even when you make a lot of money, there might be a part of you that's self-sabotaging and throwing that money away and keeping you where you currently are in this state of money stress, because that's your comfort zone. This is where you're safe. And so uncovering what are these subconscious processes around your money that is keeping you where you currently are, because where you currently are is your comfort zone. And you have to see that clearly and unwind these patterns, these narratives, these stories, so that you can break free from them.
Thank you. Tell us about your personal childhood and the kind of beliefs that shaped your childhood and related to money. And was there anything you needed to shift around that? Or was it that your parents were always encouraging and always supporting and always creating like a prosperous future by empowering money?
Yeah, so I grew up with a single mom, a young single mom, and who was raising 2 babies by herself. herself. Money was a struggle, although at the same time, my mom worked very hard to always have a roof over our heads and always put food on the table. And so as a result, the things that I learned was some good foundational beliefs around money. Like I was taught how to save money from a young age. I was taught not to overspend, to be cautious, to be careful. And some of those beliefs created good habits. Like I was always really good at saving. I was always pretty stingy. And as a result, I started working really hard from a young age. I started like paying off my college. Like I paid for college out of pocket. I really started saving money and built a good savings account. So that created a lot of foundations. But at the same time, there was these subconscious beliefs of no matter how hard I work, it's never good enough. I need to be perfect. I need to do better in order to be worthy and deserving. I need to make sure I get a good job and make lots of money and like cross some magical finish line, and then my life will be better. So I was constantly on this chasing treadmill of not enoughness, needing to be better, needing to make more so that I could feel fulfilled, so that I could feel better, so that I could believe that I was worthy and deserving of receiving money, receiving love, receiving attention. So even though I had good money habits, my relationship with money was really sticky. And as a result, I found myself in unfulfilling jobs, depressed, suicidal, a workaholic, and really like not wanting to live my life because it wasn't a life I actually enjoyed. I was only prioritizing making money and working harder and being. And so I had to learn how to change my relationship with money. I had to learn how to prioritize my self-worth, my own desires, and really start to focus on the life that I really wanted to live and unwind these beliefs that money was the thing that created my worth and value. And instead, I started to choose to live a life that I wanted to live. That's when I started my business and really went all in on investing in my growth, the growth of my business, personal development, traveling, and just choosing the kind of life that I wanted to live now, not someday when I am a millionaire and finally can start living my life, not someday when I'm retired, but instead, how can I choose the life I want to live today and let that be a measure of my value and my worth?
Thank you. Tell us that discovery and that learning, where did that lead you in terms of like, what kind of activities do you do related to money? Like, is it that you now, I don't know, let's say you go to a restaurant, do you give a tip? And I'm not saying you don't have to answer that, but I'm saying like, how do you act in terms of like small situations in your life as a result of becoming aware of your money behavior?
Yeah, I think the practice is really recognizing who are you in your most abundant self, in your vision of the life you want to live, and how can you start to live that way now? And so I have examples of this, and I think people can get a little caught up here because you might think, oh, well, if money wasn't an issue and if I was totally abundant, I would just start buying like $1 million bags, you know? And so I'm just going to take a leap of faith and start buying $1 million bags and trust that it all works out. That's not what I'm saying. It's still important for you to honor and respect your current financial situation, right? And be intentional and conscious with the money that you have. I'm not saying close your eyes and throw money at things, but what I am saying is how can you take the amount of money that you have and allocate it in alignment with your vision. So for example, if in your vision, I'll use my own personal example. In my vision, when I am totally abundant and I have plenty of money to do everything that I want to do, one of the things that I do is I want to be a philanthropist. I want to be able to have enough money to be generous and donate and give to causes that I care about and that are in alignment with me. So from the moment that I decided this and from the moment that I started my business, even when I wasn't making any money in my business and my business was negative, I always donated to causes. And it wasn't like millions of dollars. It was just a couple dollars a month. Like I think I give $2.35 to Wikipedia, for example. It doesn't matter the amount, but what matters is the intention of with my money. When I am successful, I donate to causes that I care about. So how can I do that now with the money that I already have based on the money that I already have. And then as I make more and more money, I can choose to give more to that area. But it's more of like the percentage of the money that you have. Is it being allocated to the priorities that are most important to you and the priorities that are in alignment with your vision self? If your vision self always has their nails painted and goes to the nail salon all the time, but you don't have that in your budget, now you could find that middle way point of painting your own nails and acting like you're going to the spa, really giving yourself the total spa treatment and knowing that that is you prioritizing that. That is you investing money in that by buying the nail polish that you want, by dedicating the time and energy to it. And then as you continue to make more money and step into that reality, that's when you can invest in bigger and bigger ways towards it.
Thank you. For those people that let's say are in incredible debt, let's say $1 million in debt. One interesting thing that I found, okay, is that there are a lot of really successful entrepreneurs who, let's say, have a temporary downfall where they lost everything and so on. And for whatever reason, a lot of them seem to just be able to, find resources to kind of come back up. And there are others who don't. Let's say you're in this situation where you're temporarily $1 million in debt, but you know how to sell and you I don't know, you have a successful business generally. Where do you start being abundant where you don't have the capacity to do it right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this comes back to a lot of the foundations that we've already talked about. And first and foremost, it's how can you find safety with your current financial situation? And that's really important, especially in business, because if you're in scarcity, fear, and lack, it's actually hard to sell. It impacts your business in a negative way. If you're on a sales call and you're like, please, I'm so desperate for your money. I really need you to buy my thing. Like, people don't want to buy that. So it bleeds into your marketing. It bleeds into your sales. And so first is how can you find safety with where you are? And again, the steps to that is seeing where you are clearly and how can you down-regulate your nervous system in that? How can you see where you are and yet see the safety that is here? Yes, I have a roof over my head. Yes, I'm able to put food on the table. Maybe even if it's not that, maybe if you are in dire situations and you're living in your car, like how can you find safety within yourself no matter what happens? I will always be safe. I will always have my own back. I'm always going to be okay. This isn't going to kill me. This debt is not a life or death situation. And I think you have to find safety before you can find abundance. And then from there, it's about being strategic and intentional with the money that you do have to make the decisions that are going to continue to guide you towards your goals. If you're making progress, if you're actively working towards crushing the debt, if you're actively working towards growing the business and bringing more revenue in, and you're still able to maintain that safety, then your success is inevitable. Because the only reason why people fail in business and entrepreneurship is by giving up. And so if you're able to be persistent and to keep going, then you will reach your success. And one of the reasons why people give up is because they feel stressed about money, because they don't know how to keep going and they feel like they can't support themselves financially. So they throw in the towel and they go back to an unfulfilling 9-to-5 job. But what if you could protect yourself financially? Maybe that does mean getting a part-time job that's just a couple hours a week, but it's doing something that you enjoy so you can just pay your basic bills, but then still prioritizing the business, still prioritizing your dreams, and still going all in to make that happen and using your money on the same team as you, making sure your money's on the same team to keep the business going so you can come back around into the success that is inevitable when you keep going.
Thank you. For some people, for example, there's a known president who at some point was like $1 billion in debt. And I'm really wondering about how would someone like that who is like in immense debt, how is someone like that able to communicate in a non-anxious way with his, not to say very first buyer, because, they've had buyers all their lives, but let's say with a brand new buyer, that buyer or investor or, someone who could completely bail them out of that particular situation in a non-anxious way, in a calm way, in a way that they still, see their own value. They still kind of look at the situation in a way that they're still able to see that they can help that client with that specific problem, despite the fact that they're in such massive debt. How can someone find that calmness and that ability to stay calm in the face of a terrible situation like that?
Yeah, I think it's separating and really honing in on certain aspects of the brain and certain mindsets. And so one is there's like the version of you, the part of you as an individual who is in a lot of debt. And you could make that debt mean something about you. You could make that debt mean like you're a horrible business person, you suck at what you do, you're a failure with money, right? Like you could really make that debt mean things, and you can create a story around it. And that story can then bleed into your business and bleed into those sales conversations, and that will have the impact. Versus you can change the narrative and the story around that debt in so many ways. And you could say like, oh, this debt is me investing in my future, in my business. Actually, in so many ways, this debt is is evidence of my success because I'm committed to the work that I do. I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to go all in on my work. So that's one example, is you could change the narrative around the debt. The other piece is to separate the individual who has the debt from the service that you provide, right? You could make that debt mean like, for example, I'm a coach. I do coaching, money coaching, life coaching. So I could say, I have this debt. It makes me a horrible life coach. It makes me a horrible money coach. I can't coach anybody. And that's going to bleed into my conversations with people. It's going to be really hard for me to sell myself. Versus separating this reality of the debt from who I am as a service provider and saying, actually, I can provide tons of value for people. The work that I do really changes lives. It's valuable. It's impactful. People want it. And to come in from service energy, from caring energy, from wanting to serve, support, and help others, as opposed to just get their money to satisfy my own personal needs. And so when you're able to shift into that service energy and genuinely offer something that is desired and needed, and to step into that energy, that's how you're able to separate from it. And then also in terms of the money, zooming in on the present. Like, are you alive? Are you good right now? Like, can you have water? Maybe you don't know where the food for your next meal is coming from, but like you're not starving to death right now and you're going to be okay, right? Like, how can you really zoom in on the present and find the safety in this one particular moment so that you can get into your service energy and move forward from there?
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you and your...
Absolutely. So you can learn more about the work that I do on my website. And I actually love to offer free 30-minute abundance activation sessions where we'll talk more about your current relationship with money, uncover your current seeds of scarcity, get really clear on the vision of your most abundant life, and then map out a plan to help you get there. And you can book that with me on my website, thebizhippie.com/activate.
Thank you so much.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.